If we had to take all of the principles that we teach at Hustle Humbly and put them into a course, this would be it.
Welcome to Build Your Own Business 101.
We want to give you a system to take each lead and opportunity that comes in and convert them into a client and referrer for life.
Build Your Own Business will walk you through how to prioritize and work each lead that comes in so that no one slips through the cracks.
Get more information at hustlehumblypodcast.com/BYOB. Nobody wants to drive there, Matt.
Stop it.
Nobody wants to drive there.
He's going to be the governor someday.
Oh, don't say.
No. I can't wait for the first alligator to be a service animal.
Right. How come you can find cocaine in a cereal box, but you can't find the ketchup in the fridge? Do you happen to be on Main Street? He's like, how do you know that? And I called Matt. I'm like, yeah.
He's there.
Yeah.
Hi, y'all. Welcome to Hustle Humbly. It's Alyssa and Katie, and we are two top producing realtors in the Baton Rouge market.
We work for two different companies where we should be competitors, but we have chosen community over competition.
The goal of our podcast is to encourage you to find your own way in business.
So stop comparing yourself and start embracing your strengths.
Hi, Alyssa.
Hey, Katie.
Welcome, Matt.
Hey.
Hey, I like that was really good. Hey, this is episode 203. So nearly 200 episodes ago.
Wow.
Oh, it should have been 204.
It's not. It's 203. This is all I can do. Matt was our very first guest.
199 episodes ago.
You would think you'd be able to get better pool of people by now.
You're right. Shouldn't we know more people by now?
I know.
No,
I
it's
know.
just you're so
It's funny.
smart.
You're
We're like,
so smart.
and the people have been asking us questions about property management, and apparently you're an expert.
I don't necessarily say an expert, but I have a lot of years of experience
I think
in
that's
making mistakes and fixing problems, and
Great. Are you going to share all your mistakes with us?
I'll share some for sure.
Perfect.
Okay,
Can't
great.
wait. That's going to be awesome.
Well, when we talked to you in episode 4, we kind of talked about a bunch of different things that you did.
Mm-hmm.
But property management was kind of always there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you just recently start your property management company?
We
Or maybe
rewind a minute.
Yeah, start from the beginning.
In 2006, I got licensed.
Okay.
And then, of course, we had the downturn in the market in 2007, 2008. And I got into property management to offset expenses and lifestyle and stuff like that, and really learned the business from there. Stepped out of property management in 2015. Got back into it in 2017, and the market was really, on the sales market was really, of course, everybody knows it was crushing really well.
Yeah.
17, 18, 19. So we were growing a little bit there, but still mainly focusing on sales. COVID really was the tipping point of going, this thing's about to change the market. We're in a market where usually 5 to 7 years of a downturn. The flood happened in 2016 in Baton Rouge, which kind of offset our market in a different way,
Yeah.
which homes that sold weren't supposed to sell, that sold, and people bought that probably wouldn't have bought because they could buy a house and do some remodel stuff and things like that. So it kind of pushed our market a little bit further. COVID was great for everybody in sales, but then interest rates started rising in 21. But I saw that in COVID. So my game plan went into focusing on building systems and models for property management so that we could grow in the market we are in today. So our phone rings every day on new people.
Well, do you also feel like during the part of the market just before COVID and during COVID when the interest rate got so low, so many new investors entered the market?
We had some, but most people were selling. So if you were, you could sell because the market was so tight. The market was so flush of sales. We had investors selling their properties because they can make the most amount of money that they've seen in that market. So we lost a handful of clientele and stuff during that piece from 2000 to 2020 to 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And didn't your family have some, how did you get into it in the first place? How did you even know what to do? back in 2007?
I answered a newspaper ad of a guy that needed somebody to run a portfolio. Bruce McMorrin. He owns Rental Summer and Scruggs. One of the largest Baton Rouge real estate brokerages at the time. It started in 1962. He went to mainly just portfolio management from rentals and HOAs, and so he needed someone to come take over a portfolio and head it up. Answered a newspaper ad as I was trying to find something to keep my license active. Because I was a buyer's agent at first. I know we talked about it in the first episode. Yeah. Give Kayla Johnson another shout out because someone will listen to this and call her about it. So after after the market kind of shifted, I got into property management with Bruce and learned the business from him.
Do you remember how many units he had that you were managing? 230
total units, but we had a couple property managers that were running portfolios.
And that's how you got started. Like that's how you learned.
Yeah,
that's a trial by fire.
I jumped into like 114 doors and probably 10 HOAs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't even know what question to ask about
At that point, I'm like, how hard is it to run an HOA? That's my immediate question.
We get asked all the time. We currently have 2 HOAs that we manage, and it's not something that we're really going to grow in that aspect of the business just because the timing of it takes so much, and there's so many little things that you have to make sure that are taken care of. So we're not really built for that. We dipped our toes in it and just kind of tested the market in 2 of them. And when I got out of management in 2015, I said the first thing I said I'd never get back into HOA because you're the guy that has to get everything done and also the guy that no one likes.
Right.
And I'm a high I personality and everyone needs to like me.
Yes, you're like, this is not a fit.
So it didn't fit. But business model of it is really scalable, and it's very profitable, and that's why there's so many people that are in it.
Are more people getting into it? I feel like there's a couple of big players locally. Mm-hmm. Like, how many would you say locally? I'm not going to hold you to this, but do you hear of the same 2 or 3?
Sure. Yeah, we get calls. I get calls all the time because I when I left RSS in 2015. We were managing somewhere around 45 HOAs. So we had a model that we didn't want the more or less cookie cutter HOA stuff. We wanted more of the upper end, like Mallard Lakes, Bocage Lakes,
right,
places like that. And so that's real Santa Maria. Those were our client. That was our clientele. My vision for HOA was farming to sell houses.
You would get your foot in the door and then be like, hey, by the way.
There's too many problems to go from that.
Well, it's time consuming, right?
And then nobody wants to work with the one they don't like.
Yeah, I sent them a letter because their dog was using the bathroom in someone else's yard.
And then you're like, and if you ever want to sell your house,
I'm here. And they're like, we already
The model didn't work for where I wanted to be with it. So I exited that and said I'd never get back into it. And we got approached. Lee Moss is a really good referral partner of ours, and she referred us one last year that we've kind of taken on and trying to work out everything with it. But
how's it going?
It's going. Every day's new.
Okay. Well, so for our listeners that are new, we have lots of new agent listeners. Give us like the quick description of what you have to do if you run an HOA.
So you're the point of contact for the association, whether there's 10 units or 10 houses or 10,000. So you're paying the bills. You're making sure vendors are doing what they're supposed to do. You're getting all the income that comes in and things like that, just like a regular property management stuff.
So, for example, I just had a transaction where there's a board of directors, and that's just the people that live there that are like the HOA president. But then if you need to get your roof replaced, you would talk to the president who talks to the management company. Is that kind of...
Every single one of them is different.
I see.
Every person that sits in that president seat either leverages the management company a different way than
right.
They're all run different.
Alyssa doesn't live in a neighborhood, you know.
Me neither.
Right.
I wouldn't either.
Y'all don't get it. I am in a neighborhood governed by the almighty HOA.
Yeah.
And we have a management company that handles it, that it doesn't do a great job, I would say. And it's very bureaucratic because it's basically like the they send out a person in a car once a month to drive through and check to make sure you're not breaking any rules, which could mean you built a fence that you didn't ask for permission to build. You're, I don't know, you put a swing set in your front yard. Like you did something that you weren't allowed to do, including parking a car on the street. But you have to get that wrong 3 times before you actually get fined. Well, if someone just came to visit you, they're unlikely going to be there the exact same time, you know, a month later because they come at random. You don't know when the checks are. But then they have to send a letter, which cost our dues a certain amount of money. Like the letter cost $6 to send, and there's like a fee, and then they send you these, very bureaucratic. I could totally understand why someone wouldn't want to get into HOA management. Or if you did, I feel like it would have to be the only thing you did.
Correct.
Because it's hard.
But at the end of the day, it's the management company that handles the money.
That not only do they handle the money, they handle all of the communication in my neighborhood. So I know who the president is. I can't call that person. I could go knock on their door, but they would still tell me you have to go through the management company to get anything done. Okay. If you had a complaint or you wanted to add a fence or something, I have to go through and we have a portal, like an online portal to like do all this. Look, that's what I'm saying.
It's funny because I wasn't even thinking about HOAs for this episode. I was just thinking about managing.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Rental.
Look, as a person who has to deal with an HOA, that's why I was like, tell me more.
But I didn't think about
I get calls all the time about, hey, how do I find this person or who manages this? Because I used to have that database just in
your head,
and so
and it changes.
Going through using the Secretary of State, finding out who they are, moving that way. But yes, I that was once part of a big chunk of our portfolio,
and now it's a very small piece.
Profitability piece.
Yeah, let's move on.
And you manage more individual units.
Single
you call
families,
them doors.
some multifamily, and we're bridging into some commercial.
Is it all properties that other people own, or do you manage some of your own property?
No, I manage everyone else's. I sold mine in 2020.
Oh, okay. You're like, yeah, you were one of the ones.
Yeah,
you're like, I'm going to take these.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Okay, so do you know how many units you're managing now?
We have somewhere, and we represent somewhere around 100 or so clients, tenants and landlords.
How big is your team? Like, how many people are involved in that in your office?
So I have Megan, who is a director of operations.
Okay.
For me, she kind of oversees the day to day.
She's great.
She's awesome.
Great. Okay. Shout out Megan.
And then Derek is in the trenches. He's really running the day to day PM side of it.
Okay.
Jumping
That's
into
the stuff that is so tedious.
Right, like collecting rent and putting tenants in place, taking complaints, scheduling repairs. Okay, great.
So time consuming.
Very time consuming.
Depends. We have some softwares that we use.
Well, okay, good. That was one of my questions.
Yeah, that's what we want to get to. Your systems.
Before you get there, tell me what the market charges for property management. If you want to share what you charge for property management, like if someone was like an agent who maybe his business is slowing and they want to add in property management as like a side hustle or a supplemental part of their income, how many units do you feel like you need to make that, impactful financially?
I mean, the traditional market has always been 10% of gross rents. It's typically is where most management companies charge. What we found when we were building our systems was people thought that you got all these different things are pieces of a management style or system in that 10%. And sometimes you're like, that's really not a part of what this management is. So we hired a consultant to come in, kind of deep dive into our market and help us come up with a different pricing strategy to stand out. So we have a 3-tiered system.
Okay.
First level is the most economical level. Second, we offer pet assurances, we offer eviction assurances and things like that, to where we're not necessarily collecting pet deposits. They pay a pet fee, the tenant does. And so, because typically, let's if we're looking at what a pet deposit is, it could be $250, $350. You price yourself out of the market anytime you get up over that. If you have a dog that is causing damage to a house,
it's $250,
$350 goes
nowhere.
out the window fast. So I personally guarantee through our business that I will give $1,000 in our pet assurance package in addition to the deposit.
Oh.
So $1,000 gets a little bit further.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We use a software that the dog goes through an application process,
Oh.
and so they have to go in, and if it's had any issues, it'll be in this database.
Really?
So they pay to have their dog certified through our system.
Oh.
Interesting.
Oh.
So yeah, there's a bunch of different things that make us stand out than just someone that's wanting to do a side hustle.
Okay. And do you like individual owners? Do you have owners that have many units?
We have a mixture. Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Like, okay.
Like we have owners that just have one, and they're like, I just need to rent this out. I don't have time to mess with it. And then I have investors that are like adding to their portfolios
All the time. Oh.
I feel like from a profitable standpoint, doing it as a side hustle would not be easy because you really have to have protocol, systems, liability, like all of these things in place. And it's not worth having all of those things for just 2 or 3 properties.
And most brokerages, it's the most litigious part of having a real estate license because there's so many people that do it that don't really have the bearings to actually fulfill it.
Okay.
Mhm.
There's a lot of brokerages that you could go interview and they won't take on any of your management stuff.
Oh.
They don't want to have property management in their arm because it is you have to have so many checks and balances in place because of whether it's fair housing or whether it's what different
Okay, great.
things that go through there.
Let's do a little dive into the fair housing. Give us what are some of the things you have to do to make sure you're complying with fair housing when you're property managing?
Main thing is treat everyone equal and don't let your owner get involved in any decision making.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, for instance, if you're taking applications on a unit and you have to like vet the tenants, and then how much of that information can you share with the owner? None.
You
Not-
just tell them who you chose.
They see the name when they sign,
Yes.
but you choose.
Main thing is to keep them out. We have a scoring system that we look at their rental history, credit history, how fast they fill out the application,
Oh.
how fast they get us the documents,
Oh.
their credit score, and so then it gives us a score built on the data that we built, and so they'll either qualify as a regular tenant or they'll qualify as, hey, you qualify, but you need to give us a double deposit.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
And do you partner with the owner of the property to decide what score they are comfortable with, or you choose?
No,
Like your
they
tenants
need
are
to
all
stay completely out of it.
okay. So how do you? What software is it that scores them? You
We
created
built-
it.
we built it, yeah.
That's amazing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, me, Megan, and Derek just kind of sat down and we were looking at how we would score this. What's the best way to do it to keep it as an equal playing field
Right.
as possible?
Mhm.
Because in our market today, we'll get an application on, let's say one house might get 6 applications at one
Yeah,
time, and so then you're going through them one at a time, but you might be looking at number 1, and then number 6 actually is the best qualified person, but you don't get to them. So we wanted to create a system to where we can screenshot them and look at the best score possible, just like a multiple offer situation.
Okay,
in
that
re-
makes
in real
total
estate.
sense.
Yeah.
Do you then give tenants like a time, like, hey, we have an application in, everyone has to get theirs in 24 hours, and you're like, do you give a time, like as if you had an offer in?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Depends on the situation, how they come in, because they can come from different ways. We'll acknowledge to everyone that we have multiple offers or multiple applications, and then if they want to pull at that point, we'll refund their application fee at that point. But if they want to go through the process,
They
they're
have to
going to
submit
pay
the
the
fee.
application fee.
Okay. Do you use any software that is available on the market that you didn't create? Like,
Yeah, I mean, so we use from the beginning. AppFolio is our financial software. So it's where our tenant portals are. It's where our owner portals are. It's where we pay our bills. It's where I do our checks and balances. Where our cash flow are of our owners. It's where tenants will put in maintenance requests that we can link to the property to where they're all in the monthly statement.
okay, makes sense.
We use a software called Tenant Turner.
Okay.
And so Tenant Turner basically is a portal that connects to AppFolio that the tenant can go and schedule the appointment and go through the application process from that. We're looking and we've been testing the market on self-show boxes.
Okay, I was going to ask. How's it going?
I like it a lot. It's because, and whether it's sales or tenants, schedules are always so hard. That tenant wants to see just like we talked a minute ago about your person needed to see it and they couldn't get there for an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that person then leaves, and getting that tenant to come back was extremely difficult and re-engage them. So we, in a couple of markets, especially in our outer Ascension, Livingston, where we have a struggle, like, hey, my office is on Industrialplex. So if we have a property in Jefferson Terrace, we can get there in 5 minutes. But most of the time, if we need to get out there and show it, but we'll block out appointments. In some gated communities, it doesn't work. But for the most part, it's not bad. But then it just keeps them. So if they don't, so in Tenant Turner, even if we were scheduling, we were going to meet face to face, it sends them a message and it says, hey, we have an appointment in an hour. We have an appointment in 30 minutes. And so it reminds them because they're not putting it in a calendar most of the time.
Okay.
So is the self-showings happening? Like y'all are using it now?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when they get there to the property?
So it sends them a code. They have to be in the geo service of it. They got to upload their driver's license to be able to get to it.
Through an app?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so then it'll send them a code. They'll open up the code and then they'll have to close it up. And then we send somebody
to check it
out. To go back and walk through it.
Make sure everything's good.
Okay.
On your
so
time.
Basically a person from your office has to go, even if they weren't at the showing. They've got to go that day.
Yep.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
How's that going?
It's going well. I mean, of course, if you have, let's just say you have 6 vacancies. I think we have 4 or 5 right now. But if you have 4 or 5 vacancies and you have Derek who's trying to schedule all these showings, he's out in the field majority of the time, and you have so many things in the office that need to be handled. So it's becoming a more reliable source to be able to, one, get the tenant in the property when the tenant wants to see it, and it leverages Derek's time a little bit.
So it's just the 3 of you, Megan, and Derek?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
To handle, for sure.
Yeah, a lot to handle.
So the software is helping with scheduling maintenance, repairs. Like, does it go straight to a vendor, or you then have to be involved again? Like a request comes in for a leaky faucet.
Correct. Yes, we want to diagnose what that I want Derek to diagnose what the problem actually is.
Yeah.
Because it could be, hey, go check your breaker, make sure that breaker didn't flip. Instead of charging our owner a $75 trip fee or a $100 trip fee to go, hey man, it was just a breaker, but I gotta charge you.
So he troubleshoots them on the phone.
Troubleshoots as much as he possibly can. If it's an escalated problem like an emergency, we'll be out there on site.
Yeah.
But no, and then we're going through, because some owners want to handle their own maintenance. They want to go do it themselves. So we'll coordinate it with them, or we'll send one of our vendors.
Okay, what if you have to send your vendor? Then you pay it, and they then reimburse you for that amount, the owner?
You just withhold it from the rent?
So typically we're running a 30-day business. So rent comes in on the 1st, it's late on the 5th, I can evict you on the 6th. And so from there, we'll collect the rent. We cash flow our owners somewhere between the 10th and the 15th, depending on timing of the month and the day of how the month falls out. If we have a lingering bill, we'll either hold that out or we'll wait to cash flow that owner at the end of the month. So it comes out of their proceeds, shows on their cash flow, so it's an expense to the business.
Okay.
So much goes into this. I was surprised actually when you said that it was like profitable and scalable, because to me it just seemed, I mean, I just know like one house. Okay, say an agent wanted to manage one house to make a little extra money, and it's
$100, $200.
Right,
you make like $100 a month. Like that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But if you have these systems in place and you can manage 100 or 200 or 300 or more, and your systems are working and you can just keep putting them in. But then at some point, I guess your manpower of Derek would be needing more.
That's it.
So
because someone has to be available 24 hours a day. No?
Not necessarily. We don't
Okay.
do 24-hour maintenance.
All right. So even on an emergency call.
Correct. We'll acknowledge the call via email so they know that we received it. And then the next business day, unless it's an emergency over the weekend, we'll hang it. We'll work
Okay.
that during that period.
A few more questions about your systems before we move on. So if it's in the night and they have an issue, is it like an email template they get back automatically through your system?
Like if they email us during because we want it to be personalized to
Right.
whatever the request came into.
Okay.
So if it's in the middle of the night and we don't see it till the next morning, we're acknowledging it first thing that next morning.
Okay, I see. Gotcha. I feel like you would have to have a lot of email templates in this because everything needs very similar responses.
It does seem like you have repetitive situations, right?
Yeah,
Mhm,
for sure.
that you would just tweak.
For sure.
And that's where AppFolio jumps in.
Okay. So you AppFolio, Tenant Turner, any other software you feel like you use?
We use Lead Simple as well. That helps all of our communicate. AppFolio is not a very good tenant communicator because tenants like to communicate via text message. So if it's outside of a work order or something like that, and they can call us, of course, but we have automated drips and different things set up in our processes all the way from onboarding a client to tenant renewals and move outs.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is do people tend to renew? What's the turn?
It depends on location of property is a big key on renewals. But majority of the time we'll have a tenant
For a couple of few years?
handful, yeah.
How long are your leases? A year?
1 year.
Okay.
So you have a bunch of different types of properties.
I would tell you LSU properties probably are a year out. We try to start working that renewal sometime in February, April. Make sure they're going to renew because in May.
You got to get
People
it done
are
in the
looking.
summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean people are executing their leases for the fall in May, and
Okay.
so we need to be able to facilitate that, or we'll be a dry market there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point.
That is.
Are there any other parts? Because we're in a college town, and that's why you're saying that. I mean, it's based on the semester. Are there any other parts of town that are cyclical or seasonal where
No,
or
that's
people
the most seasonal. And I stray. Like, and investors call me all the time and ask me, "Hey, I want to buy this LSU property." It's like, I mean, you go through. What's the name of that little subdivision that backs up to where Tigerland is? You go ride through that now, and it's
Charlotte?
It's not a LSU town anymore.
Right.
And so you never know when it's going to turn. As these big multifamily conglomerates come in and build these awesome facilities
that have all these
that's
amenities.
that's where these kids want to go to.
Yeah, they
They
have
don't-
lazy rivers.
Yeah, they don't want to go stay in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
40-year-old
condo.
unupdated
Condo.
condo.
Correct. That's not how they've been raised.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So would you say it's harder then for parents to invest
Yeah.
for their student to live in?
No, I think you're seeing like Magnolia Lake, some of these outer parcel areas.
But those are
University
detached
Village.
homes.
Yeah. You're seeing more investment there because they can go buy the house and then rent a bedroom to each friend and offset the
Yeah.
expense rather than paying $2,000, $2,200 to the Wildwood or whatever.
Like a big
Some of those
apartment
big complexes are.
Yeah.
And you still have some amenities, like you can go to the clubhouse, they have a swimming pool.
That's
stuff
the
like that.
transition I've seen working with so many parents trying to buy for their kids is that, probably before 2020 when the big complexes were completed and really popping up, a parent could come in and get a pretty decent condo for like
Awesome.
$150 and like close to campus on the bus route. And now you have to spend $300 at
$350.
least
And
Yeah.
you're
at
getting
a
a detached
mint
home.
to enter.
to get into that market.
I just sold
Yeah.
a $300,000 condo
Oh, bless.
that I was like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, is this what the LSU market has come to?
Mhm.
And the parents are like, my kid wants to be here because of the lazy river and the gym and all their friends are there and they do socials. And it's
Mhm.
more of like, it's just sort of
Look, just like
what they're
Perkins
looking
Row,
for.
everyone wants to be in that area where I don't have to get in a car. Like
Yeah.
that's where that generation is. They don't want to have to go drive to Denham Springs to go get something done. They
No, they
want to
don't.
do it right there on top. No,
Nobody wants to drive there, Matt.
Stop
No,
it.
nobody wants to drive there.
Thousands of real estate agents have purchased Email Templates 101, and we wanted to share some reviews.
Nikki said, love these templates. I've been an agent for a little over a year and have done quite a bit of business, but this was my first time using the email templates from start to finish through a listing transaction. It made it so much easier, and I feel so much more organized with these systems in place.
That's what they're there for.
Absolutely.
Shannon said, I just sent my first seller just listed email and they loved it. That one is my favorite.
It's so good. So, so good. Mandy said, these email templates were a great investment. They would have taken me years to put together on my own.
They did take years.
They literally took years.
That's how long it took us. So with email templates, you get 12 buyer templates, 17 seller templates with attachments to guide you through each part of the process. And each template can be customized to fit you.
Check out episode number 31 for more information or head over to emailtemplates101.com.
So what's your favorite type of property? Are you trying to get more houses, condos, complexes?
No, I don't. Complexes really aren't our bread and butter because it's so hands-on. We sold a handful last year. I have a couple fourplexes. Single family is really the bread and butter.
Okay.
Scattered throughout the Baton Rouge metro area. Getting into commercial. My dad's been a commercial agent forever. Him and his family own a bunch of commercial properties. So getting into that industrial warehouse management side is where we see coming into the fourth quarter of this year.
What kind of commercial projects? Are you managing? Warehouses?
Yeah, office warehouse.
Okay. Any particular area?
We'll be majority industrialplex.
Yeah.
I have some out in Livingston now, but yeah.
Where are the differences in managing commercial versus residential? I mean, obviously
Depends
a lot of
on
those
the
are
lease.
businesses. So
Yeah.
the time of day when the problem would happen would be more business.
Correct.
And tell us what the lease difference.
The main difference is just being able to offer that residential experience through softwares to those rather than a owner having to write a check. I lease from my dad. I'm like, man, I don't like writing you a check every single month.
Oh.
I'm going to ACH this to you, or let's create. You jump into my software. Let me show you how it works. And so that's how that has happened. Making it easy on their tenants as well, rather than having to mail a check or go drive a check by.
So you feel like commercial management locally is still kind of old school?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So is that kind of like the angle you'll take to get into that market?
Yes.
Bringing it more technological? Okay, I like that.
Yeah, rejuvenating it.
Well, I
'Cause
mean,
it needs
nobody
it.
wants to do that. And it's hard. Then you're going to knock on doors. Hey, you forgot to send your check. Oh, it's lost in the mail.
And just like most residential realtors, they don't want to mess with the management side of it, but they want to make sure they trust the person that they're handing it off to, so they know that when this person goes to sell it, it's their client. And
Okay,
so we ensure
thank you
that
so much for bringing that up. How do you ensure that?
I will give my real estate license back to the commission if I sell one of your people's houses.
So anything you manage, you tell the agent that referred them to you.
Kicks back.
That goes right back to you
We
if they
just
say
did
they
it
We
want to
just
sell.
did one. I gave them one to manage.
Okay.
Derek called me and even said that the tenant was thinking about purchasing it.
Oh, and gave you that too.
Yeah, he was like, let me know what you want. I just wanted to put it back in your court, if however you want to handle it. But Derek was fully transparent and keeping me in the loop with
I
everything.
like that. Do you
Yeah.
do any sales now?
Yeah, I'll do
You
some.
do some, but not out of that pool.
No, unless it's my people.
Right.
Unless it's my client, I brought the client,
Yeah.
or the client was a non-referral lead. It's a little bit different, but I'm not going to put them in a CRM database, churn them into
Right.
a seller of our
Okay.
sellers.
And so you find you get more agents now that refer you business.
I want to be the Baton Rouge Metro agent partner in property management.
I love that.
I want you to be able to send me a piece of
Without
business
worrying.
and know that it's coming back. I mean, every time we have a conversation with a new person that I'm just not sure. Like, just like that, I'll tell you. I was like, I'll send my license back before I take your
Thank you.
client.
I like that. That's very respectable. And I'm going to tell you a quick little anecdote. I had a client who I sold a house to. Great client, knew her personally. Ish. I mean, she moved away to Texas. So she bought a house with me. And then when she went to move to Texas, she's like, I'm just going to hang on to it for a bit and rent it. I don't do property management, but I will, as a favor to my clients, put a tenant in place. That's as far as I'm going to take it. If you need, but in not my current office, there was another agent who was doing property management. So I'm like, listen, I'm not going to do this property management. Would you like to handle this? Well, they developed a, consistent relationship because that person was always there doing their property management. Guess who listed their house for sale whenever they were tired of renting it? That agent who I gave the business to. And quite honestly, I think that's doing me dirty.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
Why would I ever send you another property management client?
No, that's not what I want.
No.
I'm for it.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense because
sure.
agents who don't do property management, like most of us, need someone they trust to be like, well, can you help my client? But they're still my client.
Yep.
Okay. Love that. How do you handle tenant complaints or disputes?
Oh, each one of them's different. Depends on the situation. We try to handle it diplomatically as possible. Sometimes we have to get the owner involved. Sometimes we can handle whatever it might be. It just really depends on the situation itself.
When I have tenants, I require them that they pay a certain way electronically. Like it's like if you want to live in here, this is how you have to pay. Is that how you do it? Like if you are going to rent one of our properties, this is the form of payment and it's the only thing we accept?
Well, no, I don't do it that way. Mainly because you need to give them an alternative source to be able to bring that to a physical location. Because if, let's just say there was a glitch or they said there was a glitch, if the rent is due through the tenant portal, if you can't get it through the tenant portal, my address is 12232 Industrialplex Suite 28. It's due there, 1st through the 5th.
What would you say is your breakdown?
98% pay online.
Okay, that's good. That's the thing that I always wondered about was you can't be tracking down everybody.
Well, and you hate the mail service.
Yeah.
Can't trust the mail.
You don't want it. I want electronic payment as much as possible because I want to know the funds are there. Because you bring me a check one time and we have an issue, you get a little bit of pass. You give me twice, you no longer get to bring me a check.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but no one wants to do that anymore. So back in the day, in 2008 through 2012,
you had to do it that way.
I mean, yeah, if you walked into my office at RSS and on the 6th of the month, you were walking over a couple $100,000 worth of rental money. And then you have to have an accountant that's going through there and putting in deposits and, and going through that piece of it. So AppFolio is really leveraged, or our software has really leveraged us not having to go to hire another accountant-based person that has to be educated. You have to have a trust factor to them.
Yeah. My very first job in college, I mean, I had jobs before that, but my first job in college was at a commercial real estate office in the accounting department, collecting commercial office rent deposits. And then I had to make a photocopy and I had to take them to the bank and I had to put it in the ledger and do the whole
Got to go into some sort of online software anyway.
Right. It's got to go somewhere anyway. Okay. How do you keep up with changes in laws for tenants and landlords? It feels like it happens a lot locally. I don't know if that's the same nationwide.
100%. So this kind of goes back to episode 4 and why Alyssa thought she wanted to interview me for that piece. I was board president in 2019 with not really serving in a capacity on any committees or anything like that. It was more or less put myself out there to run and I got involved there. And it's kind of pushed from 2019 on the governmental, real estate governmental side of it. Board wise, I thought that was going to be where it would end. And it's transitioned from, I go to the state capitol probably depending on what's on the agenda. I'll be at the state capitol a couple times during session, 2 or 3 times a week, maybe.
Wow.
So you check and see what they're discussing.
I'm watching the bills. I'm building relationships with state representatives and state senators, having conversations on advocating why this is good or why this is bad for our industry.
That's a full-time job.
That's why Megan and Derek handle so much of of the day to day, because I'm at the Capitol. Like, I'll go to my office, like, would you have this morning? I'm like, I've been at the Capitol this morning watching this committee and figuring out how we're going to handle being an adversary or who we need to contact to vote for this.
So fascinating.
You, more than because of that, other property managers are in the know.
No, I mean,
Like, you're involved before the law happens.
There's
for
not
sure.
like a-
There's a group.
yeah.
There's a handful of us that are very, very much I'm an NAR director currently. There's a handful of us that are in this property management world that are watching. Like, we did for LR before session started. We reviewed, 160, 170 bills
Oh my
Oh.
that all
gosh.
pertain to real estate, property management, homeowners associations.
So by the time it hits the news, you knew all about it
Correct.
and what the path has been to get to the news, and like you're involved.
Just give us a handful of what are some of the things in that 160 bills that
Oh
you're
my
having
gosh.
to review?
Um,
Like, were any of them standouts? Were any of them a big
Oh.
problem? Were they all a big problem?
No. I mean, majority of the time, the session is more like, I'm not going to use that analogy. Most of the time, like 160 bills, and then by the time you get to committee or through committee, maybe a handful are come out.
Okay.
And so from that period, you're on the floor having conversations with the people that are outside, because the committee really makes the decision if it pushes forward or if it dies in committee. And so if it goes through the floor, then it opens up to state rep side, and then it's got to go from state rep to state senate, and then the governor's got to sign off on it.
Right.
So there's a huge process to it.
He's going to be the governor someday.
Oh, don't say.
No. There was a handful that affected private property rights, especially on the property management side, that didn't want you to be able to verify any criminal background checks or things
Oh,
like that
my.
come up from the session. And so you have to go and between Louisiana Realtors, Apartment Association, and other housing efforts, have to make sure that those committee members understand the
Practical application.
Correct.
Because they're just in
They're-
theory. It's all
correct.
theory.
And there might be a state rep from Alexandria, Louisiana, or Monroe that has no idea how it's affecting something locally here in Baton Rouge or in New Orleans that's
Right.
a little bit different than their world where they live in today.
Okay, that makes sense. Can we then talk about Airbnbs?
Yeah.
Do you do any Airbnb management? Would you ever?
I'll never say never anymore, but probably not.
Tell us why.
One, I don't necessarily know if I could see our market today keeping up with a demand for an Airbnb. Maybe LSU during LSU football season,
Yeah.
or through baseball season, or maybe some. I just don't see a current market like a Tennessee or like a Florida or to where it's
Because we're not a
viable
vacation
business. No.
destination.
Like, you're coming in town for a night. Well,
Maybe
why
a
wouldn't
work
you?
trip.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, why aren't you staying at the Watermark, or why aren't you staying at
Mhm.
Renaissance or somewhere like
like
that?
a hotel.
Depending on where you're going to be.
Interesting.
If we had a market for it here, possibly. I don't necessarily see. I think you move from property management to hospitality,
Yes.
and I don't necessarily
Uh-huh.
see that being something that I want to be a because you are 24/7.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true.
Hard to build and scale that at that way. I'll let the professionals do that.
Fair.
I will say I've never had really. I mean, I bought my first rental property in 2014, and I've never had a call in the night from a tenant ever.
Oh,
Isn't
that's
that
a long
weird?
time.
But with my cabin, I have.
For sure.
Like the
Oh.
Airbnb.
They expect, like, hey, this
I'm on
thermostat's not
vacation.
working.
Yeah.
I want this done in
Now.
15 minutes.
Right. Right.
Well, just like if you're staying at a hotel and you walk into the hotel
Yep.
room, there's something wrong with it. You are going
Just give me
down
another
and be like,
room.
hey,
Mm-hmm.
Right. I need
Mhm.
towels now.
Right.
That's a good point. I
Mhm.
guess when you're renting a property for a year, it's whether it's a detached home or not, it's your home. Like you would, if I woke up and my AC didn't work in the night, I'd be like, well, I'll call someone in the morning. It's
Mhm.
unfortunate, but I wouldn't expect that someone's going to magically appear
mhm.
in the middle of the night.
I'm also expecting you, and my lease is expecting you to use it like it's your own too.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Like,
How
I
do
don't
you
want
guarantee that?
I don't necessarily want you going and doing a bunch of repairs. I say that in our lease. Like,
Right.
let us handle that because I don't want your non-handyman
Mm-hmm.
abilities fixing something that you shouldn't be fixing.
Right.
But I want you to take care of it. You have to take care of the landscaping. You have to take care of the appearance of the house. You have to. I want to be able to schedule a walkthrough and make sure it looks like you're living there and you're
Uh-huh.
living like you should be living.
How often do you do those walkthroughs?
We have 6 months. Every 6 months.
Every 6 months.
Mm.
Dep-
Have you ever been just shocked?
For sure we have.
Can you tell us the worst thing you've seen in a walkthrough? You don't have to name names.
I mean, worst thing was waking up to a call that a guy burned the house down and he was in it.
And
He passed away.
died.
Like on accident?
Yeah, he was
Oh,
cooking,
he
fell
was
asleep.
cooking.
Oh no.
burned the house down. That's probably one of the worst.
That's terrible. What
Um,
happened with that?
Well,
Uh,
I'm sure there was some insurance
Yeah,
involved.
fire insurance got involved. My owner was really great and gracious. He ended up donating the property. It was right next to the church. He donated the property, and they gave him one a little bit further down the street, so it worked out perfect for all parties
Mm.
involved.
Oh my.
We had
Yeah, but you walked in, like we're doing a walkthrough. I mean, they have to know you're coming, right?
right. We'll give them notice that we're coming. Worst thing is you see a Rottweiler that's not supposed to be there.
Oh.
That happens a lot.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh,
How do you handle that?
we evict the dog if we can.
Mm.
Oh.
Evict the dog.
That's the main thing. Service animals has become an issue.
Yeah.
Everybody can have a service animal. I'll make a joke with my team. Like, I can't wait for the first alligator to be a service animal.
Right, right.
Like, and what do you do with that? Like,
What kind of animals have you seen as service animals? Anything?
I mean, mainly mainly the service animals that we see are the ones that will challenge an insurance policy.
Mhm.
Anything that has an aggressive sense.
Oh, yeah. Like a German Shepherd
German
type?
Shepherd, Pit Bull,
Mm-hmm.
Doberman Pinscher,
Mm-hmm.
Rottweiler, all of those dogs that have they're sometimes listed in your insurance policy that you can't have them.
them.
right.
And so if your tenant has them, you have an issue. And then if your tenant has a service animal,
You have to
it's
allow
a fair
it,
housing.
right?
It's
yeah.
a fair housing issue.
So, like, what do you do when you can't have it because of the insurance, but then you can't not have it because of fair housing?
We're at the point where I don't think the insurance company is going to want to challenge fair housing.
Right.
Oh, you just have to be like, sorry.
I mean,
I have
at
proof
the
it's
end
a
of the
service
day,
animal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough situation.
That
for
is
sure.
tough.
And I have permission to share one of our encounters where, as y'all know from our
Please.
safety episode, that Tanner is in law enforcement. And
I wasn't going to say this one.
I want to hear. Now I really need to hear it.
and handles a lot of narcotics cases
Mhm.
and had been watching a certain home
Mm-hmm.
that was on his radar.
called me, Tanner. You could have called me.
And I get a call from Matt that's like,
Where's your husband?
Your husband busted in? Or what?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
And he was like,
100%.
the next time your husband needs
Wants to knock
do a
down one of my
bust,
doors?
just let me give him the key so I don't have to repair door
Doors.
frames.
Oh my
It was bad.
word.
It was bad. Yeah. I mean, I get a call from my owner who lives in maybe Lafayette at the time or North Carolina. I can't remember. He moved around a good bit, but he's like, hey, my neighbors are telling me police are all over the house. Like,
You don't say.
I leave in my office, and first phone call I make is to her. Like, where's your husband at? Is he on because I knew.
Is he on Main Street?
Is he on? I mean, this was a nice $3,000 a month rental. It was a nice.
Doesn't
nice
matter.
rentals.
Yeah, for
Doesn't
sure.
matter.
Yeah, but
I mean,
sometimes from what I hear, drug dealers can make the best tenants because they are compliant. They don't want to be investigated. They're going to pay on time. They're low key. It's just if you get
we had started
detected.
having some issues with these folks. We were in a non-renewal state with them. We were just waiting for the renewal
like
to come
a
about.
month situation.
There was no really violations or nuisance that we could go to eviction and hold up in eviction court.
Okay.
Until that bust happened, and
then you were like, no. Okay, had that bust not happened, and you said you were in a non-renewal state, does that just mean at the end of the lease you were going to say we're not offering
30-day notice to vacate?
Okay. Do your leases have a month-to-month clause? But you can stop that by your okay.
So, for instance, after COVID, when everybody was having problems with people not paying their rent because they were in these leases, you couldn't evict somebody because they weren't paying their rent. Well, I quit renewing leases.
Yeah.
And so I went to a non-renewal state on everybody. So if you weren't paying your rent, I was just not renewing your lease.
Okay. Which was allowed.
Had nothing to do with you not paying me rent.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you ever collect that money if they hadn't been paying?
I personally had zero.
You didn't have any.
Not pay me.
Oh, thank goodness.
I had to evict one. We let one girl go on 30-day notice to vacate, but had nothing to do with rental, non-payment. But back to Tanner. I mean, these folks dogs had sniffed stuff in the walls. I had holes in the walls. I mean, it cost only $6,000 or $7,000
to fix it after the bust.
House.
Yeah. Because of the places they hide things. And I joke with Tanner that I'm like, how come you can find cocaine in a cereal box, but you can't find the ketchup in the fridge? Like,
right. Not trained for that.
No.
Oh man.
Very ugly.
Yeah. But I had texted Tanner the day and I was like, do you happen to be on Main Street? He's like, how do you know that? And I called him out. I'm like, yeah.
He's there.
Yeah. And so I run up on the property, gated community, nice house.
Oh, no.
Swimming pool, clubhouse, all the work.
Yeah, all of it.
I pull up onto the property and they have cars and the first thing that happened was he ran into the gate. The guy ran into the gate, driving a big old truck, ran into the gate. So it was caught on camera. The HOA contacted me. So they filed with their insurance. Insurance took care of their gate and everything. But we had just started watching them a little bit closer.
Things didn't seem right.
It wasn't on rental. We were doing more drive-bys, just seeing what was going on. If there was any crazy cars there, we were doing walkthroughs on the house.
And everything seemed okay.
Well, no, I mean, we had just told her at that point. I told her we weren't renewing the lease, that she should find somewhere else to go. And the gap between that and the drug bust just.
Dang it. See, how much was left on the lease at the time of the bust?
Not much, if any. We were. I mean, it ended up working
Dang
out.
It,
That's my new stuff.
Did their homeowners insurance cover the repairs for that, or was it worth it to file? Probably not. Yikes! And it was.
I mean, in this day and stage, you want to stay away from your homeowners insurance
because it just gets higher and higher and higher if you use it.
Correct.
So sad.
It really is.
Wow.
We got to fight that with Tim Temple.
Okay.
He's working on it.
Oh, thanks. I'm so glad to hear
Capitol.
That. Perfect. I love hearing that. Can you, for our listeners who are all over the country, give us a little span of like, what are the rental rates that you, like, what's the highest rental per month that you manage? What's kind of what's the range?
What's really crazy is when I got into the business, the normal rental range was a $1,200 to $1,400. 15, 16 was crazy. I mean, $2,600 a month is where our your average. It's starting to get to the average. Like we have some lower stuff. But the way our tiers work, we don't really. If you're looking for a 10% type of manager, our lower point
won't work.
You need to be above $1,000 a month for us to be somebody that you want to work with.
Yeah, you'd have to be.
And so,
is it $1 per square foot? Like, where do you give your owners advice on what price to charge for rent?
100%.
Yeah. So
we'll
what is
CRM, we'll not CRM. We'll put a CMA together on rental rates
Yeah.
from the rental market. We have a software called. I haven't used it because it was like months behind on where the averages were, so we just went MLS. But I have another software that would give me an average as well, so we would pull MLS and that, and kind of we'll look at both of those. And that's the other thing we advocate for a realtor, that if they're talking to an investor and having a conversation on rental rates, let's make sure we're on the same page before you sell them this property and they think they're gonna this $300,000 rental is going to bring in $3,500 a month when it really is only going to bring in 26.
That's a big difference.
Huge.
It might not be
difference.
worth the purchase.
For sure. No, that's it.
Are rents going up or down right now?
They're coming down a little bit. Market's kind of slowing. But typically what we'll see is when the interest rates continue rising, our market will heat up. And so right now we're just holding some inventory. And once that happens, we'll rental rates will start pushing again.
How are vacancy rates? I've never, you have any issue with vacancies?
No, I mean, we have some normal. We usually keep one or two at all times. Right now, the more properties we're gaining on LSU, you'll see more in this period of time because people are moving to the new apartment complex, or they want a new house, or their parents finally bought something.
Yeah.
How do you market a vacant property?
Tenant Turner and AppFolio syndicate through all the Zillow pieces. And Zillow goes to Rent USA, all those rental sites. Because our market pulled Zillow rentals out because Zillow was going to charge property managers just like they charge salespeople. And so we weren't advertising on Zillow at that time. We put it in MLS. So we offer a co-op to agents. When an agent refers us business, we give them an agent referral on that as well. But we co-op that in the business.
What's the co-op rate that you do?
Depends on the rental rate, really. But typically you'll see it's most of the time not worth. Just like a rental's not worth somebody's time, the co-op is not worth their time.
Is it a dollar number? I've seen some that do dollar and some that do like a percentage of the first month's rent.
No, we'll do a fixed rate.
It's a number.
Yeah, because we're putting so much money on the front end of this, and it's more expensive on our side of it because all the systems that come in, we're trying to make it somewhat
the handful
break even.
Right. The handful of listing for a client as a favor and to get them a tenant, for a long time I would do like a 50-50 co-op, right, of the first month's rent. And then I realized I had to do all the work.
Yeah.
The agent that brought the tenant might have shown it, and that was kind of where the buck stopped, right? And I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense, and so I had to change it. But
for sure, no, I mean that's how ours was. But from loading it from a new property all the way to marketing it on the market, that's just the beginning pieces of it. Going in and making sure that tenant's the right person for that property. Going through the application process, you're talking about a lot of hours and time in that, and so. We're built on the management side of it, not the lease fee side of it. Lease fee is just part of it. We try to break even, make a little bit of money. But we really make money on the long-term management of it.
That makes sense.
Will you share with us, what do you charge a property owner for you to get the tenant in place? Is it you're just charging the 10% per month, or is there a fee?
There's a lease fee. It's broken down in the different tiers.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
It gets like the lower one's a little bit more expensive, and then goes on.
He has a beautiful flyer.
I'm going to need to see those.
I'll send it.
Okay, great.
Did Megan make that flyer?
100%.
Yeah,
great job,
very
Megan.
helpful.
Did you think I did?
No.
What would you say are some of the challenges of being a property manager?
What's the hardest part?
Yeah, what's the hardest part?
Dealing with just like sales, you're dealing with emotions and personalities. You're dealing with someone that has a set expectation, and you have of a property owner that all they want is their rent. They want to run as lean as possible, and then you have a tenant that wants to pay their rent, and they want to make sure everything runs as smooth as possible. Problems come up, so just dealing with that emotion and being as diplomatic as possible is going through and making sure that it's a win-win for everyone involved.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's very interesting.
You still manage all of yours yourself?
I do, but I just feel like, so I have 3 in Baton Rouge and then the cabin in Tennessee. They're all occupied right now, and the VRBO sort of runs itself. I do have a cleaning lady in Tennessee, and that's what's interesting too, talking about different owners. I have had to tell my cleaning lady a few times, like, I'm not the owner that wants you to scrub a stain out of a towel.
Right.
I want you to toss the towel and I will buy new towels.
Right.
Like, that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized very quickly that from the cabins she cleans, she has owners that are so frugal, don't want to spend $1. Like, they want to salvage as much as they can. Whereas, you know, I'm a different type of owner that like wants it a certain way.
Yeah.
And so people are different. But so I kind of feel like me and my cleaning lady in Tennessee, she's not a property manager, but
she is almost.
Every time a tenant moves out, because her schedule links with Airbnb and VRBO. So they all sync together. So when the tenant leaves or the guest leaves, she's the first one there. And she calls me and lets me know if anything's missing, is anything broken. She sends me photos. So in a way, like, she is my property manager and she's my teammate there.
Well, and in a way, you have someone put eyes on that property more frequently than if you were leasing it out for a year.
100%. So
more opportunities for people to go wild, but
right. But I feel like I do need to be pretty hands-on with decisions there. So I need them to call me anyway.
Yeah.
So what's the point in them calling someone who then calls me? Just call me if there's, and it's really not bad. I feel like it comes in waves. Like, sometimes I go 2 months with never getting a call. And then
Yeah.
1 month I get 4 calls, and, you know, we just have to deal with it. But my residential ones here, I require them to pay electronically. I log into my app on the first of every month and make sure the rents came in. And, you know, it's not too much for me right now.
because you don't have that many.
Yeah.
Do you have some clients that hire you for property management that only have one unit? Yeah, because some people, I would think, or do you get some that end up being accidental landlords, like they couldn't
100%.
sell? Yeah, so then they're like, "Well, I don't want to deal with this."
We'll have them. We're in the middle of one right now that we sign a management agreement, 1-year contract, renews, all that stuff. Put a tenant in the property, and then like, I think we want to sell. Like, so we're dealing with that more in this market today than we ever have.
How do you? Is there an out for them? How do you handle that? Do they have to pay the whole?
We try to coordinate it to where it's at the end of the lease as much as possible. And just tell them how hard it's going to be for a property to show with a tenant in it.
Because you can't kick the tenant out to sell it.
And then you have to acknowledge the rental, the rental agreement that's in place. And then that's going to lower your market of ownership because you're not going to be able to sell to an FHA or VA.
Right.
Seems like you could call some of your investors and be like, this one's tenant occupied if you want it.
And we do. The problem with today's market is the prices are so high that my guys are spoiled and they want something pennies on the dollar.
Investors want it cheap and sellers want it high. Yeah.
So the market hadn't really worked to buy, but I think we'll see a change in the market here in the next year and a half that will probably open up the rental market to buy a little bit more, unless you're just cash heavy and you're like, I want to get a return better than from a bank, and you can go get a 6% or something return on your money, 8% on your money from there.
So interesting.
Very. I could ask you questions all day.
I know. I feel like we need a second episode of just stories.
Right. Yeah. I would like you to shock the people with some like really good stories. I can feel you're holding back.
100%.
You can see it on his face. He's holding
I didn't
back.
know that we were going to be interviewing a politician.
Yes, we are.
I'm so well behaved.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you all the right answers. I'm like, tell me about the worst thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, you see stuff all the time. Main thing is just handling it with the most diplomacy and making sure that you don't say something emotionally that you're going to regret.
Have you ever been sued in a property management capacity? Is this like okay?
Oh, wow.
That's a real one. That works.
No, I mean, we and I was having this conversation with someone a couple weeks ago. I was like, the goal is to stay away from that. I mean, there's some things that people are just litigious and they're going to be litigious, but at the same time, the owner doesn't want something, the tenant doesn't want something. Let's figure out what the win-win could be,
right? And
let's move on, and then go from there.
Yeah. Okay.
So interesting.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I
me
mean, unless
too.
you want to harass him some
No,
more.
I think we're good.
That's it. All the questions.
That's everything
Look,
that we wanted to ask.
I had spares if you want me to keep going.
What was one of the spares? I thought I saw a spare that I
Did
was
you
like,
feel free? Did you find one that you really wanted to answer? I'm happy to hear it.
how often do I provide financial reports? We do that monthly.
Oh, to your owners, okay.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We talked about lease renewals.
Mm-hmm.
You just asked me about lawsuits.
We can get a lot done. You'd be surprised in our little,
Mhm.
1 hour
Mhm.
time span.
Do you have to carry like a special insurance for yourself, like an umbrella policy?
No, we use the LREC.
Just the regular E&O.
We're going to
Okay.
look at getting private insurance this year, but for the
Okay.
most part, we're just to increase the coverages.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
as a private owner, like my tenant stuff isn't covered under my E&O. Like
Okay,
it's-
right.
But because
It's
I
me.
manage it under
Right.
my real estate license, my NO.
Uh-huh.
Maybe yeah.
Hmm.
I'm satisfied. You did a great job, Matt. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you
in.
for
And we
having
didn't
me.
even let you tell us for the end of this. In episode 4, they can go learn all about all the real estate hats you have worn. I don't want you to tell me that again, but just give us your quick 30-second. We'll do the intro and the outro, like who you are,
Okay.
that stuff, where they can find you.
I'm located in Baton Rouge. My name's Matt Hughes. Me and my dad have Hughes Realty Group in Baton Rouge. I just recently merged with him in October of 2020.
Two?
Was it 22?
I don't know, 21, 22.
I have really bridged my business from into property management mainly. I do a lot of governmental relations stuff with a lot of different entities and do that piece of it a good bit. That's where a lot of my communication and getting involved with different bills and committees at the state
But that's
capitol.
just your passion, right?
It is.
Like you just have a passion for that.
For some reason, yes.
I love that. Someone has too. Someone
Yeah,
has.
and so I love property management too. So and so I love real estate, and I'm very passionate about private property rights and making sure that we ensure our kids get to have private property rights. And so going through that's where after being involved with the local level, state level, and now national level, I've really just put on a hat that's just going and trying to figure out what's the best for the state. Not necessarily an elected position, but
Yeah.
because sometimes you can get more done.
As an advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being here.
No problem.
Did you bring a toast?
Oh, I did see that.
Oh, I mean,
I
I
can't
mean,
remember who he toasted
I
to the
don't-
first time.
I don't remember.
Probably somebody on my team.
I'm
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I would have to toast to my team again. I mean, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to do the things that I
Right.
get to do without Megan and without Derek.
Mm-hmm.
Megan's a huge piece. I mean, I introduced her to people. She was like, she runs my real estate side of my business
I
and
love that.
in my life, and she's huge. My dad being in business with my dad's been really
That's so
really
fun.
interesting. I didn't realize how much it meant to him until we did it, and it's a very important for
loves
his
it.
legacy.
It's like he
and-
never wanted to push it, but when it was
Yeah,
your idea,
yeah, he
he's
was
like,
excited.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
So it's been pretty
that.
cool. I talk to him more than I ever
I
have.
need to meet your dad.
That's sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're on Industrialplex.
Is it Bunky? Is that your dad?
Bunky Hughes.
I mean, you don't miss a name like Bunky Hughes,
No, for sure.
right? And I remember I've just passed by it on Industrialplex so many times. You see his signs, and I'm like, I didn't ever put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was what was really cool is I in 2006, I really just wanted to do my own thing, be my own,
Yeah.
learn on my own and not necessarily just fold into what he had going on. That could have been probably the easier road to go and probably not need as many hats or have to have as many hats.
Yeah, but I think you
but,
bring a better value
no,
now
like-
because
Yeah,
of
for
that.
sure.
I love my path, and now that I'm there, it works out perfect.
Love
But yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so cheers to Megan, Derek, Dad.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, thank you for being here. We
This was
appreciate
No problem.
you.
Thank y'all.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hustle Humbly podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to ratethispodcast.com/hustlehumbly and leave us a review or like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications.
If you have an episode topic or someone you'd like to toast on the show, please email us at team@hustlehumblypodcast.com.
Find us on social media at Hustle Humbly Podcast. Don't forget to find all the free resources at hustlehumblypodcast.com/resources.
See you next week.